About 6 years ago, Queen's Park Rangers' wage bill was way bigger than that of Borussia Dortmund. They once employed the likes of Julio Cesar, who was a Champions League winner, who was a Serie A winner. They also had Rio Ferdinand, who was at one time the most expensive centre-half in world football. He too was a former Champions League winner and had won the Premier League title. They also had Loic Remy, who was a hotshot in France and was still considered one of the top prospects in world football. They were all on their books, so they put out a 5-year plan in which they stated that they will be a threat to the Premier League title. By the way, in 2013, they got relegated at the end of the season. So yeah, what happened? What made them put out such outlandish statements even though they were a relegation fighting team? So let's look into this, and for that we need to backtrack a bit. Well, QPR were promoted under Neil Warnock, the current Cardiff City manager, and Tony Fernandes decided to buy the club for just £35 million. For casuals, it looked like they were making major moves. In the first 6 months, Mark Hughes was appointed the manager. That wasn't a good sign. Anyways, they signed Joey Barton, Sean Wright-Phillips, Samba Diakite, Djibril Cisse, and Bobby Zamora. They were all signed on very high wages. Now just take a look at all of those names and you will see a crop of players who are either busted or were simply just not good enough. That year, they survived. They stayed up on the last day as other results went their way. The following summer, improvements were promised, so they went into the transfer market again and this time brought in Ji-sung Park, Robert Green, Ryan Nelson, and Jose Bosingwa. It turned out these guys weren't good either. Well, Park retired 2 years later, Ryan Nelson at the end of the season, and Jose Bosingwa was let go by Chelsea. So yeah, all of these players were past it. The improvements that were promised just did not happen, and Hughes was made the scapegoat, so he got the boot. Harry Redknapp was brought in, and he signed Loic Remy, Tal Ben-Haim, Chris Samba, Jermaine Genius, and Andros Townsend. Just to make it clear, if you count all of this, you can see that QPR had signed 15 plus washed up first team players in the last 4 transfer windows. How was there meant to be any stability? So yeah, they got relegated. Now in the championship, they were in serious trouble. On a turnover of 38.7 million, they were paying 75.4 million in wages, and the reason for that was that most of the players were locked in on lucrative long-term deals. The club literally could not give them away because no one was insane enough to match their contracts. It wasn't all bad for them because the players that they had may not be good for the Premier League, but they were way too good for the Championship, so they bounced straight right back up. Well, they had to do it via the playoffs, but they got to the Premier League. So the question was, had they learned their lesson? Will they make the same mistakes again? Would they try to hold a more sustainable transfer policy? Of course not! In came Rio Ferdinand, Mauricio Isla, Eduardo Vargas, and a host of others. So yeah, they got relegated again. This time around in the championship, the internal cracks within the club could be seen. There were players on wages way too high, and in order to afford them, long-term players like Jamie Mackie were forced out of the club. This did not bode well with the fans. The club is still stuck in the championship to this day. So yeah, it's safe to say that their 5-year plan just did not work. They are not in the Champions League spot, they are in fact a mid-table championship club. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what actually happened to Queen's Park Rangers. Like and subscribe, and I will see you soon.